amazing experience being connected with professionals on a Friday morning like this. It's a great experience so far. Taking time off work to meet and spend with other professionals in the community. I would also like to thank our amazing sponsors. I would like to thank Raz for giving me this opportunity, reaching out to me on LinkedIn if I'm interested in taking this session. I mean, if I can, why not? So I also look forward to many more engagements within the community. If you care to know, this is my first engagement with the community, and I really see that there are a lot of people to learn from, MVP, MCTs alike, solution architects. And so far, it's been interesting, and I really do hope this session would also be an interesting one. So this session is going to focus on an introduction to Dynamics 365 Finance, and that is typically an 100 level session for beginners or enthusiasts or those that are just getting started with the system. I mean, Dynamics Finance and Operation. And I mean, so feel free. It's going to be it's going to be a basic and fundamental session. So my name is Ahmad Abdulkadri. I work on the partner side, implementing Dynamics for finance and operation. I am also an MCT. I train Dynamics 365 finance and operation, and also on Azure. And before I used to be a support engineer. I worked on the support side, so I know how things work internally. And I would also like to connect with you on LinkedIn in case you want to. Sorry. Okay, thanks, Alex. In case you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you could just search for my name. I'll be willing to connect with anybody via LinkedIn, or you could send me an email, and that's also fine. So our agenda for this session, like I said, it's an 100 level session. So we'll do an intro into Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. We want to have an overview of the system. Then we'll go into Dynamics 365 for Finance specifically, and we'll also look at some of the functionalities or user enhancements that we could do that could make our work faster as users or as people using the system. So some of us are familiar with some of these shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, and would also take a business scenario. So we want to put ourselves in the position of a functional consultant. Say you want to implement for a company, and how do you go about that? Creating legal entity and setting up those fundamental setups that need to be done before the system can be used. Then would also try and get feedback if there are any, and would also take some Q&A before we go ahead to end the session. So as much as I would like this session to be an interactive one, being that it is geared towards beginners, so I would like to know, do we have beginners on the call? Do we have enthusiasts? So you could use the raise hand icon to indicate if you are just getting started with the system. Okay, we have a couple of people. Do we have novices here? Okay. I'm sure most of us are intermediate or advanced level. So, like we all know, for those of us that are not aware, those that are novice or enthusiast, these are some of the roles that you could be in this ecosystem. So you could be a functional consultant focused mainly on the functional side, the user functionality. You could be a developer. You could extend the application using X++ or C Sharp, as the case may be. You could also be a technical consultant, being at the back end side of things. You could be a solution architect, a functional or a technical solution architect, and you could also be a support engineer. So this session is fundamental to whichever role or whichever line you want to focus on. So the finance, like we all know, is the backbone of the ERP system. Being a supply chain consultant, for example, you still need to, I mean, the way supply chain works, there's a network of material. It has to do with material moving from the different players, from the suppliers, which are the vendors, to the manufacturer, the OEM, then to the distributors, then to the retailer, then to the final consumer. Also, apart from materials moving, you also need to move information, and finance has to move. So you need to monitor all this. So my point here is that finance is basic and it's fundamental to whichever role you want to be in the Dynamics ecosystem. So like we all know, I mean, businesses want challenge solutions to their challenges. I mean, they want to be able to gather data in a uniform way. They want to unify their data. Gone are the days when businesses had their different application in silos. So you could have a third-party application for warehouse management, another one for transport management. Then, I mean, it needs to talk to finance. So businesses need to overcome this challenge. Then they need an application that is scalable on the cloud. We are all witnesses to what COVID-19 has done in terms of disruption and how it has largely changed the way we work. So businesses need to scale, and they need to have their businesses on the cloud. Then we talk about mobility. I mean, people want to be mobile while doing business. You can have it on your mobile phone instead of just having it on your PC. Then some of these applications, they are also expensive, and the managers, they need to make decision quickly using business insights and all of that. So finance and operation solves all this problem. You have, for example, the warehouse management system. You could use a mobile app. So it has this mobile, even finance and operation, you could have this mobile, it has a mobile app version that you could work with. So these are some of the offerings of finance and operation. As you can see, these are the different modules you have. You have your finance, manufacturing, supply chain, and distribution. So all of this, Microsoft has done a really wonderful work with finance and operation. So you don't need to have your applications in silos. So they talk to themselves. So once you are performing any action in your inventory management, or you want to manage your purchase order, for example, all those activities are geared towards supply chain, right? But there's a way it links to your finance, and you can also monitor your financial status using the application. So under the finance module, you have the general ledger, which is the backbone of finance, and that's all the different main accounts. You have the account receivable, your account receivable, and all other financial related modules. In your manufacturing, whatever type of manufacturing you want to use, lean process manufacturing, you want to, as much as you can, reduce waste. The system is capable of doing all that. Shipment management and all that, production control, and your supply chain distribution or logistics, how your goods move from one point to another. You want to check the status of your goods and all that. So we've had some previous sessions on transport management and the like. So these are some of the interesting features of this product that businesses need to leverage on. So again, is that you have access to intelligent insights, and with Power BI, you could embed Power BI, or you could use powerbi.com. So all these are some of the interesting features in the application. It also gives you the flexibility of running your business anywhere at any time. So that is that about. So let's go into finance overview. So this image that you can see here, it basically has to do with the whole finance and operations activity. So in a company, for example, for companies that are not service related, say manufacturing, so you have two basic cycles. So you have your procure to pay, and your procure to pay has to do with procurement. You're an OEM, for example, you need to manufacture a product for your consumers. So you need to raise purchase order and relate with your vendors and all that. So at this point, finance and operation helps you to manage all that and all the financial activities related to procure to pay. So like your vendor invoices, payments, settlements to all your vendors. And you could even extend the application to your vendors and let them have dashboards so as to work with the system. So again, is that the other one, which is the order to cash, has to do with selling those products to your customers. So you receive sales order, quotation, and all that. How do you manage all that? Account receivable and all that. So this is what you can get done with the system. It helps you manage all this all together. So your inventory management in between, you have inventory. How do you manage all your inventories and all that? So the application is a very robust one that helps you do all that. So this is finance and operation. These are some of the things you could do. It allows having multiple organizations. So you could be in different countries. So you could have your the different branches or different operating units in different places. So finance and operation makes that easy for you, and it makes your supply chain management easy, manufacturing, and your HR. So we'll go now into the system and have an overview of how the system looks like. So this is the dashboard. So there's this concept of dashboard. So as an individual or as a user, you can personalize your dashboard. So once you log in, this is what you see. So this is like the default dashboard. Then here you'd have your navigation pane. So these are for your modules, your different modules that you have. You have all these modules. Then you have your workspaces. So workspaces, it's a beautiful feature that allows you to focus on a particular set of activity. So you are able to do that. And you also have your recent. So Dynamics Finance and Operation, it's so whenever you work on a particular module, it automatically adds it to your recent, so you can always go back to it. So, and at this side, you can see you can always add any module to favorite. So when you add it to favorite, you see it in your favorite pane. So then on the top here, you have the search pane where you could search, and there are different ways for searching. You could type the number or the name of the form, or you could just type, for example, I want to go to my legal entity form. So I have the opportunity to type legal entities in full, or I also have the liberty of just typing the first two letters and I get my legal entity. So all I need to type is LE, then it brings out my legal entity form, the options for me. So these are some of the capabilities of the system, as we can see. Then we have, if you drill down to a particular module, you'd have your, so from here you can favorite any of these forms or any of these workspace, you can favorite them. So if you click on anyone, you also have interesting charts, your Power BI and all that in the system. So that is that about that. Now, I'd also like to just talk about a few shortcuts that would make our productivity, that would increase our productivity. So if we try to, on the system, we want to go to the our home page, the default dashboard. So we could do that by pressing Control Shift and Home. So it takes us from anywhere we are in any form. It takes us back to the default dashboard, and we could another shortcut we could leverage on is to choose our legal entity. So if I go to the system and press Control Shift O, we can change our legal entity instead of coming here and typing. So I've pressed that, and as you can see, it takes me to the option to change my legal entities. And we can also view system messages by using Control Shift F7. So it brings out my action center, the panel, and as you can see, I don't have any notifications. So those are some of the shortcuts we could use. Then to refresh any form, you could use Shift F5. So Shift F5 helps you refresh any form. I don't have anything on the form. So those are some of the shortcuts and some of the interesting features on the system. So in case you find it too clicky and you don't want to just keep clicking, so these are some of the things you could do. So you want to check for more shortcuts, you can visit this link, this docs page. It takes you to the shortcuts. So you can see a lot of shortcuts that you can use within the system. It makes your working on the system faster and easier. Now I would just try and go into hands-on lab. So we want to do a demo session. So we want to put ourselves in the position of a business consultant. So we would be implementing a legal entity, and we'll be doing some necessary setups to make use of the system. So this is our objective. We want to create a legal entity. We want to assign number sequence. So a legal entity, for those of us that are not aware, is basically a company that has legal rights. So that's a legal entity. Then we need to assign number sequences to our legal entity. So then we need to structure our organization. So those are the objective for this lab. So we have this scenario: a company comes to us and they want to implement finance and operation. So AAA retailers, they are based in Europe. They have their parent organization based in the US, and they are into finance. They need a solution for finance, supply chain, manufacturing, and retail, and they want to use finance and operation to manage their business. So this is their organizational structure, and we'll be doing all this. We'll be setting their organization hierarchy up shortly. So to get started, if you are not aware, so you could provision your cloud hosted environment just like I am doing. So I'm using my cloud hosted environment. So once you log into LCS, you connect using your ARM templates. You could provision a cloud hosted environment here. So just log into Dynamics lcs.dynamics.com to provision your cloud hosted environment. So you could use a trial license. There are trial licenses available for that. So once you do that, you are able to provision a trial environment. Then you could also visit trials.dynamics.com. So just go to trials.dynamics.com. So you are able to log in and provision environment for practice. So once you click on finance and operation, put your work email and add a phone number to it. So you can get all that done here. And you could also leverage on some free labs on Microsoft Learn. So Microsoft Learn is the learning platform, and you find a lot of interesting resources here. And there are labs that you could spin up, but you have like 4 hours trial time. So before the labs shut down, the VMs shut down. So those are the options you have. So let's go into our system right away. So I'll go back to my dashboard. This is my system. Like we said, AAA retailers, they are based in Dublin, and the parent organization is based in the US. So we want to set that up now, and let's see where we can go from there. So the first thing, I log into my environment, and as you can see, I have USMF. This is one of the organizations that you have out of the box in the system. So when you deploy your cloud hosted environment, it comes with some demo data where you could use for your testing and your practice and all that. So the first thing we need to do is to go to our organization administration. So I can go to, and I go to legal entities. So I go to my organizations, then I go to legal entities. So I'm here to create a new legal entity. So I click on new, then I give a name to my legal entity. So the name is AAA Retailers. Then I need a company code, more like a digit. So it has to be 4 and it's not changeable. So I'm going to use TAHQ, AAA HQ, something like that. So it's based in Ireland. Now, finance and operation allows for localization. So depending on the country you choose, you are able to localize. For example, I'm aware that in the UK, you have what is known as VAT, Value Added Tax. on products. So with localization in some other places like US, I think it's known as sales tax. So if you pick a country and you use the localized functionality region, it helps you, tailor all this towards your local environment. So I'm going to pick on the country the company wants to be located in. So I have that. So I've created my new legal entity. Then I click on OK. Now, so it automatically switches to the newly created legal entity. This is the form here. And so I need to complete these other details. Now I want to pick a language, so let me pick English. I can pick English US. Then I have this functionality, localized functionality region. So I set it to dictate company region. Then I want to use, let's leave it at GMT. Okay. So Dublin, I think they use GMT, then the GMT region. So we could save the record if we want. We could click on save if we want. Now, the next thing I want to do is to go to this fast tab. These are known as fast tabs. So to enter information, so we could enter our address. So okay, we have an address already, so we could leave that, and we could also add multiple addresses if we want. So I can add another address. So let me go ahead to do that now. So I want to pick my country. Then I put a street to it if I want. So let me name it Park Community Road, if there's anything like that. Then I can leave all this blank and I can decide to pick a city. I can pick Dublin. So that's that about the address. Then I can go ahead to my contact information fast tab and add a contact information. Let me just add my name, my phone. Then I can decide to make it primary if I want. Then I can decide to add some other information. So I can add email address. So these are some of the things I can do. So I need to set up all this. So I go to my registration ID fast tab. So I click on the registration ID button. I want to add a registration ID. I go over here. Then, so I want to add the registration ID. So I have this here. It has automatically populate. Okay, this was for yesterday, so we could create a new one. So to do that, all I need to do, so if I have a scenario where I don't have any data here, for example, this one I did this earlier, shortly before joining the call. So all I could just click on to go into this form for this record. I just need to right click, view details, then add my details to it. So here I can add a new registration type. So I can add a new registration type here. Give the description if I want to. pick a country. Do I want to make it unique, or do I want to leave it? So I have, can it be updated? Then I have, if I want it to be updated, then I click on this, all that. So I go ahead to create this, then I close this form. So if I come back here, I can just refresh my form, and let's see. I try to add a new one, as you can see. So this is the one I added today. This is the new one I just added. So I can give it a registration number. Then I save the record. So that is that. Let me close this form, and let's see what else we can do. So let's go to now that we have our legal entity, let's set our preferences. So when we log into the system, we want to log into this legal entity and not USMF. So to do that, all we need to do is use this gear button or the gear icon. Then we click on user options. Then we'll go to our preferences tab. Then my new company, AAA Retailers, is this TAHQ. So then I can save that. Then I close the form. So I have my company as the default now, and I would also like to change my this image here, the dashboard image. I would like to make it customized and put my company's image there. So to do that, I pick an option here. I want to make it a logo. I have a logo. Then I click on change. Then I go into upload my logo. So I have a logo for this purpose. So I have my logo here. I click on save. Now I need to just refresh my form if I want. I can use F5. So like I said earlier, we have this option of recent. So if you go to this recent, you see your legal entities. So this is our most recent form that we've been on. So you can always go to this to click on that. So you have some other fast tabs here that you could work on. Tax registration, you could do all these. Reports logo. I mean, if we have logos that we want to appear on our report, so we can also do the same and upload the logo if we have any. So that's that about that. So these other fast tabs, depending on what relates to the company. So if they are based in the US, I'm aware US makes use of this 1099. So you could set it up, but we'll not be doing that since we are not based. Our company, AAA Retailers, is not based in the US. So those are some things we could do on the system. So that's creating our legal entity, and right now we are in our legal entity. So that's that about that. Now we want to move on to the concept of our number sequence. Before we can make use of the legal entity, we need to set up our number sequence. So our number sequence has to do with how our documents or the tasks, how the numbering system we want it to use. So to do that, we also set that up in our organization admin module. Then we go to number sequences, then number sequence. So here we would see a shared master data, and we could, as we can see, these are the number sequence that we have already. It's like a shared master data, and these are the formats for the different companies that we have. But for our own company, let us see if we have the number sequence set up, but I doubt that. So we'll go to any of the module. So let's go to our general ledger module and see. since that's our backbone module for the finance. So we'll go to the general ledger module and we go to the ledger setup, general ledger parameter. So let's see if we have our number sequence setup, but we shouldn't since okay, it has changed to USMF. So I need to go back to my company to HQ. So go to our number sequence tab. We don't have any number sequence set up, as we can see, because our legal entity is a new one. Let's check some other modules. Let's check our accounts payable. Then we go to our accounts payable parameters to check for our number sequence. Go to number sequence and we can see it's also empty. Let's go to another module and do a quick check. So it means we need to set up our number sequence, and to do that, so let's just go ahead and set up our number sequence. So we'll go to our organization admin module like we did when setting up our legal entity. So we click on number sequence. Then we go ahead to generate number sequence for our new company. So the system is trying to generate number sequence to propose a sequence for us. So this number sequence would be attached to different module of each legal entity that has a missing number sequence. So like you can see, these ones they have already. So we need to set it up. As we checked for our general ledger module, accounts payable, our number sequence was missing. So we go ahead and we click on next. Then we click on next. Then we click on finish. So while this is going on, let's just wait a bit. So after that, we'll now go back to those modules, our general ledger module, and check if our number sequence have been generated. So it's done. We'll go to our general ledger. General ledger parameters, number sequence. So we have our number sequence generated for us. And I mean, with this, so for this different reference, it has been generated for our journal batch number, closing sheets. This is the number sequence we want to use. So let's go and check for our accounts receivable. Let's check for accounts payable. We checked accounts payable, then it was missing. So we have for our accounts payable. So and we could also create number sequence based on the different modules. So to do that, we could just go to the module. For example, our accounts payable, this module we are in currently. So to do that, we go to number sequence. So let's go to our organization admin and let's go to our number sequence. So we could create a new number sequence. So to create a new number sequence, we click on new if we want to generate. So we could we could use our company code for our number sequence code. So we have let's use TAHQ, and Let's create for general ledger. So the name, let's use our company name. AAA Retailers. GL. So let's go to this scope. The scope has to do with it has to do with how, I mean, which of the entities would make use of the number sequence. So it could be a shared one. We could make it company. We could make it operating units. So this has to do with the scope. So if we want to change the scope, we could change it. Let's go to the segments. We want to add segments. We could add segments to it. So the segment has to do with the format of the legal entity, of the number sequence rather. So we could pick a segment and add a value to it. So these are some setups that we could do on the system. So we could change the scope. So let's go ahead. We want to change the scope to legal entity for our legal entity, and we pick a legal entity, newly created legal entity. So our newly created legal entity is this. So so we can design this. So this is the format it would come out with. So we have the liability, or we have the choice to change this format if we like. Now let's try changing this to company, and let's see the difference. Let's try changing to operating units. So if we want to make the scope operating unit, these are the options that we could use within the system. So let's leave it back to legal entity. So we could change the value if we want. We could change any of these value if we want. So let's go to the fast tab, the references fast tab, and let's see the available options that we have. Okay, it says the scope is not fully defined. Let's fix this back. So we could add a reference if we want. We are not adding a reference, and let's go to the general section. Let's see the options we have here. So these are the options we have. We could make it continuous or non-continuous, depending on whatever we want. So when we make it continuous, we'll see this fast tab appears. It has to do with automatic cleanup. So this is like a periodic cleanup that happens within the system. So depending on whatever we want, we could set our number sequence up, and we have some other option. Let's go to this performance. So if we go to this general fast tab and we check this, you see that it activates this performance. So it has to do with making the performance better in the system. So those are the options that we have. So let's close this form. So generally, that's how we go ahead to create a number sequence. So we want to we have a structure that we want to work with. So would go ahead to work on structuring and using policies, and based on this organization structure we have, we want to go ahead to do that. So we would also go to do that, we'll do all this setting in our organization admin module. So we'll go to organizations and we'll go to internal organizations. So these are our internal organizations that we have. Let's create a new one. So want to create a new department. Click on OK. So going back to our slides, we have this organizational structure provided for us. So under AAA retailers, we have this D365 FinOps as a department under it. So we want to go ahead to create that. So in the name field, I put the name of the department. So these are the departments that we have in our new organization. Okay. So that is that about that. Then we should go to, let's try and save this. We have a new department. Then let's go to our organization hierarchy and let's try and set it up. So let's check, since we're told that it's a retail, they'll be doing retail. So let's go to retail stores by business units. Then let's view what we have here in our hierarchy designer. So this is what we have in our hierarchy designer for the retail stores. So let's let's close this form. Let's view it again. So this is what we are trying to do. We want to try and build our organization hierarchy. So I'll close this form and go ahead to do that. So I've closed the hierarchy designer. Then let's go to our stores by region and let's create a new one. So let's just give it, let's create, so this is a retail store in one of our regions. Then we'll switch to this fast tab. We don't have any allowed organization. We need to, let's go back to our view. We don't have any node existing. So we'll go ahead to create this. So we can click on the edit button to create, and we can see that we can insert our legal entity, or we can insert department, cost center, whatever we want to insert. So we want to create an hierarchy for our organization, a new organization. So we pick our organization, we select the legal entity. So like we know from this diagram, this is what we are trying to design. So we have, this is the parent company, and we have a different branch in different places. So this is based in Dublin, while this is based in the US. So we'll be modeling all that using our hierarchy designer now. So I'll pick, following this design, I'll pick GMLF, GLMF. So I have it here. Then I'll add it to my designer. So I could the next thing I need to do, if I try and go back to add a legal entity, I'll see that it's no more there. I can't add it anymore, right? Because I've added it to the designer already, so I can't have it. I can't add it twice. So the next thing to do, I add my USMF. So following the diagram we have here, so USMF is meant to be under GLMF, which is the parent organization. Then I add that under it. So if I try and add this one again, I'll see that I can't find USMF. So the next thing I'll do is to add my new legal entity, AAA retailers. So I have it here, our new company, which is based in Dublin. So that is that about that. Then I want to add a department under AAA retailers. So as you can see, I want to add this department, and I have it under AAA retailers. So I go ahead, I click on the AAA retailers, then I would add my department. So I have finance, operations. These are different departments I have under this company. So I want to add them: finance, operations, then D365 FinOps. So I go ahead to do that. I click on my company, then I go ahead and insert a department. So I want to add finance. I've added finance under AAA retailers. Now, as you can see, my main organization is highlighted. So if I go ahead to insert anything, it goes into that node. So I need to be sure I've clicked on the right company. So I click on this back. Then I'll add the remaining department that I have. So I have my D365 FinOps. I've added it as well. Then I'll add the last one. Which has to do with operations. So that is what I have, and I can go ahead to publish it and save. I need to save first. Okay, so after saving, then I can click on publish. So it's asking for an effective date. So the beauty of this is that you could choose a later date. You could choose, when you want the system. Perhaps you are not the company is not yet up, but at a later date they would be they would be they will be coming up. So you could do that within the system. So you pick a date for that. So let's pick today's data and click on publish. So it has been published and it will be effective today. Now let's go to our purposes. So this is our purposes. Then let's go to Expenditure Internal. So our purposes have to do with they are like policies we need to set up for our organization. So these are like the main setups we need to do before we can go ahead to make use of our organization, of the new legal entity we just created on our organization. So let's click on this and let's see what we have here. So we could set different policies. I mean, if we have rules that we want to set, so we could set purchasing policies. We could set, any kind of policy we want to set up. So for the purpose of this demo, we'll be setting up our purchasing policy. So I go to my policy and I click on Expenditure Internal Control. Then let's see the allowed organizations. We don't have anything here. Okay, so let's go to Procurement Internal Control. Do we have anything? We don't have anything set, being that our organization is a new one. So we could add hierarchies and set up our policies for the system. So let's go ahead to add hierarchy to our procurement internal control. So we want to add a policy to our internal procurement. So we click on add. So then I pick on my AAA retailers. Then so I've added it. Then I can close this organization policies. So since I've added it here to my policy, so I close the form. So I've added internal procurement policy. So I need to like set it up. So I go to procurement and sourcing module to set it up and complete my setup. So I go to my setup. Then I go to policies and I check my purchasing policies. So I want to configure my purchasing policies. So I can add, so these are the current ones I have. I have one for a company, USMF. So I need, then I have replenishment requisition for USRT. So I want to add one to, I want to add a rule or a policy to my new legal entity. So I click on new. So I want to add a new purchasing policy. So let's just make it short. Time is fast spent. So in the description, we could put purchasing policy. So let's check the organizations that we have here. So these are the available organizations. So we need to bring in our organization, AAA retailers, into this. So let's look at our policy rule. The rule type parameters. So these are what we have in the system, and these are the setups that we could make in the system. We have about 4 minutes left to the end of the session, and time is fast spent. So I can drop a link to, in case we are interested in completing this and taking more business scenarios that we could use for our practice as beginners. I'll drop a link where we can check that. So we could also check Microsoft Learn. There are a lot of resources on Microsoft Learn where we could learn more about the system as beginners. So I would like to stop here at this moment in case we have any contributions
Hi, thank you, Ahmed, for that. That's an excellent introductory session. Which so first of all, congratulations, everyone! Congratulate Ahmed on his first international session. That was a really good introduction. A lot of consultants. This is a foundation to a lot of to FinOps, basically. Okay, so a lot of people, a lot of customers and consultants, this is where to begin, right? And so Ahmed's done that. So again, thank you so much for doing that. That's a really great introduction. So guys, please follow Ahmed. I shared the link in the chat. So please follow him there. And Ahmed, where you're calling from? Is it from Lagos today?
Yes, that's right.
Ah, fantastic. Right. So one thing I do know, I like to share with the community is Nigeria has some of the biggest Dynamics FinOps implementations. You know, it does. So one thing I know about the community is that a lot of the big implementations are, you know, are in, for example, in America, it's in Dallas, Texas, obviously New York. And then you have obviously Dubai and Middle East is huge. You've got Germany. But I'll tell you something, Nigeria has got one of the largest implementations. So congratulations for all the work you're doing in Lagos, Ahmed. Your experience and your you know the knowledge sharing has been a great way to kick off this event.
Thanks so much.
Awesome, right. So next, I just need to let's just mute some people who are speaking. Let's just get them muted before we introduce our next guest speaker. Once again, I want to thank Faisal Fareed, who's been managing this channel for all the morning sessions today. Faisal, you still there, aren't you?
Yes, I'm still here, Raz.
So just for everyone who's not aware who Faisal is, Faisal runs the Dynamics FinOps AX community in New Zealand and Australia. So do you have any bits of information to share about that, Faisal, before you go?
Sorry, I missed your question, sorry.
Do you have any information to share about the community events that you're doing in New Zealand and Australia before you finish?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I did mention in one of my sessions earlier, I have been running ANZ FinOps teams here, and that's a local group which we are running here for Australia and New Zealand regions to start with. We are having fortnightly sessions. We are sharing knowledge on finance and operations and Power Platform. So if you are interested to learn more about Power Platform and finance and operations, please do join those. And I'm also running Pakistan Dynamic 365 and Power Platform community. So if you are interested to learn more about the whole ecosystem, how the whole ecosystem is evolving from Microsoft side, you can join me over there too. And you can find me on LinkedIn and speaking across the world nowadays just about finance and operations and Power Platform.
Thank you so much again, everybody. Round of applause for Faisal Fareed, for his help today. He's very. What time is it there in Australia?
It's 11 p.m. in the night.
11 p.m. 11 p.m. So he's on the other side of the world. So again, everybody, round of applause for Faisal Fareed. Also, big round of applause for Ahmed. He just completed his call. Next up, okay, we have a special guest speaker. Thank you so much for. It was last minute as well, so thank you again. It is none other than Joe Graman, right? Recommended by the one and only Ludwig, Dr. Ludwig. So without further ado, Joe, I can see you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, I'm happy to be here to share my presentation. I didn't know that Ludwig was behind all this one, so thanks very much, Ludwig, for the referral. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So Joe, I do have a question. I've got
sure.
So Faisal, if you could just stop the recording, please, before you finish. Faisal?
Yes, sorry, I'm just
fantastic.
recording.
Yeah, Faisal, if you